inshallah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على محمد وآله الطاهرين واللعنة الدائمة الباقية إلى أعدائهم من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد, I would like to just begin with the Islamic greeting of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Keeping in mind that we are going through very challenging times around the world, you know, this greeting that we have on a daily basis becomes more relevant and important for us. And especially during the month of Ramadan, which is the month of spirituality, fasting, sharing, this prayer for peace on a global level becomes very important for us. And so I think that's how we'll begin because the time is short. We're already 10 minutes late.
Okay, sounds good. Sorry. So the first question in general, related to the essence of fasting, why do Muslims fast?
You want a short answer or a long answer?
Whatever will ease people's hunger till the namaz time.
It depends on how we are fasting today. Okay. Basically, when we are talking about fasting from the Muslims' perspective, there are all different reasons for it. There is a personal spiritual dimension to it. There is also an important social dimension to it. To make it very brief, on a personal level, when we fast, this is actually a spiritual exercise that we go through. God has given us this opportunity to deal with the ongoing challenge that everyone has it. And that is the challenge of mind over body. And when you fast, for 29 to 30 days, you abstain from some of the basic desires that human beings have. And by midday, you start feeling especially when it comes to food and drink, you are hungry and thirsty. And so the body is demanding certain things from you, but you then have to decide. It's your mind, your soul, your conscience has to say no. When you deny your physical desires again and again and again for 29 to 30 days, this is where you see that the balance is being created and it becomes a matter of giving more power to your willpower. And that would help you when it comes to the challenges of temptations that we see in life. In every case where a person commits a crime or a sin or behaves in an immoral manner, it has everything to do with, giving in to temptations. If you have a stronger willpower, you can resist all kinds of challenges. So that's on a personal level. On a social level, when we go through hunger and thirst, this is where we can relate more to the poor and needy in the society. And this is where the element of charity becomes more pronounced in the Muslim community. All religions talk about charity, but if you survey the charity activity among Muslims on a global level, you will see that the chart will reach to the peak during the month of Ramadan. So these are the two important issues. And there are some side benefits. You lose few pounds at the end of the month. It depends on how much you eat at night. So,
I think for me, I have to make sure I don't lose as much weight because I'm skinny as it is. So, the next question: why do some Muslims break their fast later than others?
The daytime wise, you were saying time wise?
Yeah, timing wise. So even in Toronto time.
Okay. Among Muslims also, like almost all religions around the world, there are internal divisions, and even among Muslims you have Sunni and Shia. Even among Sunnis you have different perspectives there. And so depending on how they define the beginning of the day, the dawn, and how they define the beginning of the night, you will see some will start, their fast earlier, and some will do it later, or even when it comes to the ending of the fast, some people would do it at sunset. In the Shi'i perspective, we wait about 15 more minutes just to make sure that the night has set in. And because of those differences, you will see that there is a difference in the timing of the beginning and the ending of the fasting day.
Who is exempt from fasting?
It's a good question. Normally, when we talk with those who are not of the Islamic faith, they have this perception that fasting is mandatory on all Muslims. It is true. That's just the very basic ruling. But there are a lot of, exemptions there. When we look at the people who are elderly, who find it very difficult to fast, they are exempted from it. The people who are going through an illness where they need to eat and drink constantly, for example, a person who is suffering from diabetes, for example, these people also would be exempted. And there are different levels of severity that they have. In some cases, they are exempted totally. In some cases, they have to, in lieu of their fasting, they have to pay a simple charity of, an amount of 750 gram per day in form of staple food for the poor and needy. But then also you have the people who are traveling. They are exempted when they are traveling. They have to make it up after the month of Ramadan. Similarly, pregnant women, the nursing mother, they also are exempted. But later on, once they have come out of that situation, they'll have to make it up after the month of Ramadan, of course.
And what are some recommended actions for Muslims to do during the month of Ramadan?
The month of Ramadan is a month of prayers and spirituality. In the Islamic calendar, we have the month of Rajab, Sha'ban, and Ramadan. I call that the spiritual season of the Muslim calendar. So the rituals started more from Rajab and then goes up in Sha'ban. You reach to the peak during the month of Ramadan. And besides fasting, one of the important issues is that Muslims try to read the Quran, our holy book. At least, they read a part of it every night or every day, so that by the end of the month they would have completed recitation of the entire Quran. So that's one of the most important, recommendation. Besides that, there are many other, prayers which have come from the Prophet and the Imams of the Ahlul Bayt that we recite. You had one dua just before the program. We have dua iftitah, dua kumail, and there are special nights in the month of Ramadan where there are even more important, special recommendations for those nights.
And how can non-Muslims help Muslims out while they're fasting?
Well, how can non-Muslims, so we're talking about maybe friends at the school or the colleagues at work. Well, number one, don't invite them for lunch because you're then putting them under pressure. So you should realize that, they are not going to eat and drink. And I think it's also important to realize that if somebody is in a position of, being a senior and that other Muslim is a subordinate working under him, be lenient during the month of Ramadan. Even the school boards in our area, for example, in New York region, we had an ongoing, discussion on issues related to Muslim students. And this policy has been there for a long time that when it comes to phys ed in the month of Ramadan, they don't have any activities outside. Not only for Muslim students, they say we'll just change the whole schedule because you are asking students go around the field, 5 times. They become thirsty after that and it becomes more challenging. So non-Muslims need to realize the challenge that the Muslim go through fasting and be, aware of it. Yeah.
And what should Muslims do to help non-Muslims understand the importance of Ramadan?
I think talking about it is very important. Many times Muslims shy away from talking about their faith for different reasons, including, the political environment. But I think it's important to live in this multicultural society. Wherever you get the opportunity, it is important to talk about yourself. And when the others come to know your faith and your practice and your rituals, they will appreciate you more and be more accommodative to your, situations.
And why does the month of Ramadan and Eid change each year?
I have a speech prepared for tomorrow, so I'll not give the whole speech here. But short answer for it, it's part of the mercy of Almighty God. Just realize that if the Islamic calendar was based on the solar system, so let's assume that Ramadan would occur every year in July. People in Toronto, their whole life will be suffering, because every year it will be a long, fast for them. There will be people in other part of the world where it will not be summer, it will be winter for them. And their whole life, they will have a very short, days of fasting. But by basing these rituals on the lunar system, each part of the world gets this rotation of the month of Ramadan in all different seasons. It takes about 30 to 33 years for Ramadan to go through all the seasons. So I don't know how much you know in your life, but if you live 30 years or more, you will remember the days when we had a very short fast, and also the days that we had long fast. So it is everything to do with the lunar calendar.
I remember the short fast from the old baby mosques. So we're going to go into some of the introduction to Islam questions as well. What do the terms Islam and the term Muslim mean?
The very first thing I would say, I think even the Muslims themselves need to learn what is the name of their faith and what is their identity. Sometimes they go with the way non-Muslims use this term, and they say, oh, Islam, and I'm a Muslim. But it's not Islam, it is Islam. And you are not Muslim. Muslim means somebody who is in dark. Whereas, so let's have the words, we should use it in the right way so that others also then know the name of our faith and our, the people in the correct way. Islam basically, as far as the name is concerned, it means peace, it means submission. And essentially what it means is that if you submit to the will of God, this is where you get the inner peace. And with inner peace, you can have peace on a in the society. Historically, Islam basically is the final message of God to the human society, which started with Adam, the first human being who was also the first prophet, went through major prophets, Noah, and then Abraham, then Moses and Jesus, and ending with Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon them all. And so when we talk about the, Islam, although it started in the 7th century of the Common Era, but that's not the beginning. That is the end of the process of revelation and message of God, which ended with Prophet Muhammad as the final message for the human society.
And what is the Islamic view of Abraham, Moses, and Jesus?
In our faith, we have been told that Almighty God sent about 124,000 prophets. But if you ask me for the list of everyone, we don't have the listing. The longest list of the names of the prophet goes to about 60 to 65 names. But not all 124,000 prophets were on the same rank. There is a hierarchy among them. All of them are known as prophets, Anbiya from Nabi. But among them, there were some who are known as Rusul. They were messengers of God also. And their number is 313. So out of 124,000, 313 are the messengers of God. They are at a higher, rank. And among those 313, we have 5 at the top. And of course, the first name would be the name of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But besides our own prophet, we have the name of, when we talk about Jesus, when we talk about Moses, we talk about Abraham and Noah. So all 5, with our own prophet, they become the 5 Ulul Azm prophets, who are considered to be the top of the hierarchy of the messengers of God. Yeah. And so when we talk about a Muslim is not somebody who only believes in one God and Prophet Muhammad. He also is required to acknowledge and respect all the prophets who came before. So you can't have a person who says, well, I believe in the Prophet Muhammad and Allah, but I don't believe Moses was a prophet. From our religious point of view, he is not a Muslim. And so even recognition of the prophets who came before is part of our theology.
What are some of the largest misconceptions of Islam?
Well, the era that we are going through is the issue of Islam being looked upon as a religion of violence. The word terrorism is very, easily associated with Islam and Muslims. And, there have been people, carrying that name, Bin Laden and company, who basically are spoil our name on that. But we have to realize that you cannot take actions of a fringe minority and blame the entire Muslim world and the faith for what they do. So the first is the issue of, understanding Islam in its own authentic and, version of it, and not these fringe elements. The other is this issue, especially in the western part of the world, in Canada, there is a perception out there that, Christianity and Judaism are Western religion. They are okay here, and Islam is a foreign religion. People don't realize that whether it's Judaism and Christianity or Islam, all come from the same geographical area. All of them come from the Middle East. And so Islam is as much a Western religion as is Christianity and Judaism, because Islam is truly a world religion. And so, this issue of looking at Islam and Muslims as aliens and outsiders, this is another, I would say, the misconception which is out there. Yeah.
What are some ways that Muslims can counter those issues, that misinformation that's out there?
Well, it's more, being more active in the media. It's more engaging with the society at all different levels, where it is the full, we talk about education boards, or you talk about municipal level or provincial level or federal level. I think the activities are becoming more prevalent now at different levels, and we see the impact. They are recognizing that now, after Christianity, Muslims are the largest religious faith group in Canada, as far as the latest census from the government is concerned. Yeah.
And what are some of the similarities between Islam and the other Abrahamic faiths?
There are actually quite a few, because when we talk about the way I talked about the prophets, that itself shows that all the prophets come from the same origin. We also believe that Almighty God had even given them, revealed the scriptures to them, although we do not subscribe to the idea that Old Testament and the New Testament are the actual Torah and Injil. But we believe that revelation was part of these earlier Abrahamic faiths also. And so that itself is a very important, common ground. The Quran says, go and talk to the Ahlul Kitab, the Christian and the Jewish, communities, and ask them, at least let us come together on the most fundamental point, and that there is only one God. Then we have, of course, our other differences, but prayers, the formats are different. Fasting also is not unique to Muslims. Even Christianity and Judaism has that. And so in that way, when we talk about the issue of charity, being kind to one another, what you look at the Bible and you talk about the 10 Commandments, you actually have the same 10 Commandments. I will be biased in saying in a more refined and better version of it in the Quran also. Yeah.
We have a couple of questions now about the whole Palestine issue that's ongoing. So why is this issue of Palestine so important to Muslims?
Well, number one, it's because of, Jerusalem is there, and Masjid al-Aqsa is considered to be one of the important holy sites in the world of Islam. It was the first Qibla of the Muslims. Secondly, it is a land where Muslims have been there for centuries. If you look at the tragedy, it's basically land of one people taken over by another and given to a third. The land of the Palestinians taken over by the British in the First War and given to the Jewish community who mostly come from Russia and Europe. And so that is the tragedy, and that is the problem which is going on. So for Muslims, those are the Islamic, kind of connections. But it's not just an Islamic issue, it is a humanitarian issue. All over the world, you will see, South African government is not a Muslim government. But when they look at the suffering of what is going on in Gaza, they felt their human, duty to take the case to the International Court of Justice. And that shows that it's not just an Islamic issue, it is a human issue. Even in the demonstrations that we see in the media, in Canada, in US, in Europe, different parts of the world, those who do the protest in order for the suffering of the people in Gaza to come to an end, they are not Muslims. Neither their organizers are Muslims. So it is not only an Islamic issue, it is also a humanitarian issue.
How can we counter that narrative? Because in the media it does seem to be shown more as a religious issue rather than a humanitarian issue.
Well, it's. I think the narrative is changing. If you see the public opinion, it is turning in a positive way as far as Palestinians are concerned. The motion which was passed on Monday in Canadian Parliament itself is an indication of that.
wraps up the question and answer portion. We have about, I think, about 5-6 minutes till namaz time, so we'll end it over here, where people can go do wudu and stretch their legs and whatnot. I want to thank you again, Maulana Rizvi, for taking the time to do the question and answer today. And also I wanted to thank everybody here, especially our guests, for the interfaith iftar. Again, just as a reminder, we have some welcome packages on both the men's and ladies' side. Please feel free to go grab those. And inshallah, we'll end with a loud salawat.
Can we just one more, the issue of, starting the fasting early or late. I talked about the day, but what about the month? Right here in Toronto, you will see that even among the Sunni mosques, some of them started one day early, the others started the day, after that. And that has everything to do with different madhahib. There are some who believe that, if Saudi Arabia announces, we just follow. There are many other Sunni, masajid who actually insist that we only go with the sighting in North America or South America, not in the East. And among Shias also, of course, we have difference of opinions there. But the main thing is that the sighting should be in an area where the visibility was there. And that's where you will see some start a day before, others start the day after. But the Eid, inshallah, will be one for everyone.
Inshallah.